Hello, welcome back. Let's read some more. It's getting dark outside. It's a kind of snowstorm. The weather is very bad. It's 4:15, but every day the day get more brighter, more daylight, but it will be very slow. The next many weeks will still be dark. The next 50 days, 50 or 60 days, 2 months.
Use of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war. There have been numerous reports of chemical weapons attacks in the Syrian civil war, 1. Beginning in 2012, and corroborated by national governments, the United Nations, UN, 2. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, Human Rights Watch, HRW, and media organizations. The attacks occurred in different areas of Syria, including Khan al-Assal, Shoba, Sarakab, Ashrafiyat Sarnaya, Kafazita, Talmens, Samin and Dalma. The deadliest attacks were the August 2013 Syrian attack in Ghouta, killing between 281 and 1,729 people and injuring 3,600 patients. The April 2017 Syrian attack in Khan Sheikhan, killing at least 89 people, and April 2018 Dalma chemical attacks, killing 43 people and injuring 500 civilians. The most common agent used is chlorine, with own study finding it was used in 91.5% of attacks. 3. With sarin and sulfur mustard also reported. 4. Almost half of the attacks between 2014 and 2018 were delivered via aircraft and less than a quarter were delivered from the ground, with the remaining attacks having an undetermined method of delivery. 4. Since the start of uprisings across Syria in 2011, Syrian Arab armed forces and pro-Assad paramilitary forces have been implicated in more than 300 chemical attacks in Syria. 5. Investigations have found that both the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad and ISIL militants have used chemical weapons, with the majority of attacks being carried out by the Syrian government. In 2014, the OPCW fact-finding mission in Syria concluded the use of chlorine was systematic and widespread. 6. Following year, the OPCW-UN Joint Investigative Mechanism, OPCW-UN was established to identify the perpetrators of chemical attacks in Syria. 6. The OPQ engine blamed the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad for the sarin attack in Khan Sheikhan, as well as 3 chlorine attacks. 6. They also concluded ISIL militants used sulfur mustard. 6. According to the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Syrian Arab Republic, the Syrian government carried out 33 chemical attacks between 2013 and September 2018. 7. A further 6 attacks were documented by the Commission, but the perpetrators were not sufficiently identified. 7. According to HRW, 85 confirmed chemical attacks occurred between the 21st of August, 2013 and the 25th of February, 2018, and the Syrian government was responsible for the majority of the attacks. 8. 9. HRW said the actual number of attacks was likely higher than 85.8. According to a Global Public Policy Institute study, at least 336 attacks have occurred. 3. The report said 98% of these attacks were carried out by Assad's forces and 2% by ISIL. 3. Attacks in 2013 prompted the international community to pressure the Syrian armed forces to agree to the supervised destruction of their chemical weapons. Despite the disarmament process, which completed on the 23rd of June, 2014, dozens of incidents with suspected use of chemical weapons followed throughout. Syria mainly blamed on Syrian Ba'athist forces, as well as ISIL, Syrian opposition forces, and Turkish armed forces. 10. In April 2018, following at least 18 visits to Syria for inspections, the Technical Secretariat of the OPCW was unable to verify that Syria had submitted a declaration that could be considered accurate and complete. 6. The Khan Sheikhan chemical attack on the 4th of April, 2017 drew international condemnation, and resulted in U.S. military action against the Syrian government-controlled airbase at Sherat. The Douma chemical attack on the 7th of April, 2018 also drew a military response from the United States, United Kingdom and France. In April 2021, OPCW suspended Syria from its membership, criticizing the Assad regime for not revealing its chemical weapons stockpiles and contravening the Chemical Weapons Convention. 11, 12, 13. Background. At the outbreak of the Syrian civil war in 2011, concerns were raised about both the security of Syria's chemical weapon sites and about the potential use of chemical weapons. In July 2012, Syrian Foreign Ministry spokesman Jihad Maqdisi stated, "No chemical or biological weapons will ever be used. All of these types of weapons are in storage and under security and the direct supervision of the Syrian armed forces and will never be used unless Syria is exposed to external aggression." 14. A Syrian defector who worked inside the chemical weapons network alleged that in January 2012 two senior Syrian officers moved about 100 kilograms of chemical weapons materials from a secret military base in Nasriya. The Syrian source also described construction of special trucks, which could transport and mix weapons. These mobile mixers were constructed inside Mercedes or Volvo trucks that were similar to refrigerator trucks. Inside were storage tanks, pipes and a motor to drive the mixing machinery, the defector said. 15. On the 23rd of July, 2012, the Syrian government confirmed for the first time that it had chemical weapons, but stated that they would only be used in instances of external aggression. 16. On the 20th of August, 2012, President Barack Obama used the phrase "red line" 17, in reference to the use of chemical weapons. Specifically, Obama said, "We have been very clear to the Assad regime, but also to other players on the ground, that a red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized. That would change my calculus. That would change my equation." 18. In September 2012, the Syrian military began moving chemical weapons from Damascus to the port city of Tartus. 19. That same month, it was reported that the military had restarted testing of chemical weapons at a base on the outskirts of Aleppo. 20. On the 28th of September 2012, U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said that Syrian government had moved its chemical weapons in order to secure them from approaching opposition forces. 21. It emerged that the Russian government had helped set up communications between the United States and Syria regarding the status of Syria's chemical weapons. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that Syria had given the United States explanations and assurances that it was taking care of the weapons. 22. On the 8th of December, it was reported that members of the jihadist al-Nusra Front had recently captured a Saudi-owned toxic chemicals plant outside of Aleppo. 23. On the 22nd of December, 2012, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that Syria had consolidated chemical weapons into one or two places to prevent rebels capturing them, and that recent moves that had alarmed Western governments were part of this consolidation. 24, 25, 26. Brigadier General Mustafa al-Sheikh, a Syrian army defector, confirmed that most of their chemical weapons have been transported to Alawite areas in Latakia and near the coast. Some chemical munitions remain in bases around Damascus. 27. In December 2012, McClatchy reported various chemical weapons experts' skepticism that Syria was preparing to use chemical weapons, noting their limited utility in a civil war situation with fluid battalions, and Syria's comments that such use would be suicide in view of U.S. threats of retaliation. 28. On the 6th of September, 2013, a bill was filed in the U.S. Congress to authorize the use of military force against the Syrian military, mainly in response to the use of sarin in Ghouta attack on the 21st of August 2013. 29. On the 9th of September, 2013, the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry stated that the airstrikes could be averted if Syria turned over every single bit of its chemical weapons stockpiles. 30 hours after Kerry's statement, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that Russia had suggested to Syria that it relinquish its chemical weapons. 31. The Syrian Foreign Minister Walid al-Moallem immediately welcomed the proposal. 31. 32. In September 2013, the Syrian government entered into several international agreements for the destruction of its chemical weapons that stipulated an initial destruction deadline of the 30th of June 2014, a deadline apparently achieved in respect of declared chemical weapons. 33. Prior to September 2013, the Syrian government had not publicly admitted to possessing chemical weapons, although Western intelligence services believed it to hold one of the world's largest stockpiles. 34. On the 17th of August 2017, Reuters published a report detailing the extent of Syria's failure to abandon chemical weapons, citing information from investigators, inspectors and diplomatic sources. 35. According to a source cited in the report, there are certainly some gaps. The map marks the position of reported chemical weapons attacks in the Syrian civil war. Yellow markers indicate chlorine attacks. Red. On the 17th of August 2017, Reuters published a report detailing the extent of Syria's failure to abandon chemical weapons, citing information from investigators, inspectors and diplomatic sources. 35. According to a source cited in the report, there are certainly some gaps, uncertainties, discrepancies regarding Syria's chemical weapons arsenal. For example, the Syrian government inaccurately or even falsely declared the types, purposes and quantities of chemicals in its possession, and is suspected of continuing to hold at least 2,000 chemical bomb shells that should have been converted to conventional weapons. 35. Incidents. Use of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war is located in Syria. Aleppo. Aleppo Kobane. Kobane Latakia. Latakia Tartus. Tartus Q Nitra. Q Nitra Dara. Dara Rakka. Rakka de Ezza. De Ezza al Haseka. Al Haseka has Suwaida. As Suwaida Glib. Idlib Hama. Hama Homs. Homs use of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war. Qasr Abu Samra. Qasr Abu Samra Khan Sheikh Khan. Khan Sheikh Hunal Bayadak. Al Bayadakan Al Azor. Khan Al Azor Zarakab. Sarakab al Bahari. Al Bahari Jabar / Zamalka. Jobar / Zamalka Ashrafiyat Sanaya. Ashrafiyat Sanaya Kafazita. Kafazita Latamina. Al Latamina Arfaya. Halfaya Adra.